Hello and welcome to the Stamperia Serve Vagabond and Fantasy World tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. All of these products that are available on the Scrap and Create website are linked in the description box below, so you can purchase these products and follow along. Let's get into the tutorial. In today's tutorial, we are going to be building up page 4. So I have the base of my page here. I'm going to set off to the side. Now for this one, I have another one of my 4-inch circles, and I'm going to use this as a closure. So I've got my first piece here that is cut to 6 3/8 by 1 3/4. On the 6 3/8 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the left hand side. Then I have a piece that's cut to 6 inches by 7 inches. On the 6-inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the right. Then I have a piece that measures 5 inches by 5 7/8 of an inch. On the 5-inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch down the right-hand side. And then I have one piece that measures 2.5 by 8 1/4. On the 8 1/4 inch side, on the 2.5 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch down the left-hand side. Now I'm going to take my scissors and miter the ends on these 1/2 inch tab sections. Then I will use my bone folder to score on all, or to crease on all of the score lines. Now that all of my pieces are scored, I'm going to take my decorative edge die, and on my 5-inch by 5 7/8 inch piece, I'm going to place this here on this left edge, lining everything up, and then I will run this through my die cutting machine. And this is the only one of these flaps that will have the decorative edge on it. To start, I'm going to take my 2.5 by 8 1/4 inch piece first and apply my adhesive here. This piece is going to be a pocket on the base of the page on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to line up my folded score line with the left edge of the page, making sure that the top and the bottom edge are lined up, and then I will burnish this down. Then I'm going to take my 6 3/8 by 1 3/4 inch piece and apply my adhesive to my small tab. Now this is going to be a closure. I'm going to place this though on top of this pocket in the center. So I have my centering ruler here, and this is going to be 7/8 of an inch from the center. I'll place that here so that that score line is right on top of the score line for the pocket, so that it's right at the edge of the page. And I'll burnish this down. Then I'm going to take my larger flap here. I'm going to move my ruler over here to the opposite side because I need to mark this at 3.5 from center. And I am going to adhere this flap to the right side of the page, again lining up this score line on the flap with the edge of the page. So since I marked it, I don't need to leave it up against the ruler. I'm just going to do this. It's a bit easier to see on camera so my head isn't in that frame. And I'll go ahead and burnish this down. Now opening up, I'm going to be placing this one here in the center. So I will be taking my ruler again, and I'm going to mark this one 3 inches. And since this is 5 7/8, it's just going to be right between those two marks, just like we've done on the previous builds. And I'm going to take this score line, on the flap and make sure that it's lined up with that edge of this larger flap and burnish this down. Now I'm going to fold this over and take my circular piece, and I'm going to first center this on the page left to right. So I've got this, and I'm just going to mark this. And then holding that in place, I'm also going to center this top to bottom. It was actually already centered, which is nice. So I've made these marks. And now I can take this off, and I'm just going to apply my adhesive here to my band section. And again, I'm leaving just a little bit open on the sides, that way I can tuck the paper up underneath. Then I'm going to take my circle piece and put it right back where I drew those lines. And then I will burnish this down to secure it to that closure band. And then coming in here, I'm going to put an M here and an M here for my magnets, and a P here so that I remember to turn that into a pocket. And that's all for the front of the page. So we'll go ahead and come to the back side and start building it. The first two pieces for the back of the page are cut to 5.5 by 5 7/8. Now on one of these pieces on the 5.5 inch side, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch down the right hand side. And on the other, I'm going to score on the 5.5 inch side at 1/2 inch down the left hand side. Then I've cut two pieces to 5 7/8 by 2.5. On the 2.5 inch side, I'm going to score a 1/2 inch along the bottom of one, and at a 1/2 inch along the top of the other one. I'm going to use my scissors and miter the ends on the tabs, and then I will take my bone folder and fold on these score lines. Then I'll come back and show you how we're going to use the decorative edge die on these flaps. I'm going to use my decorative edge dies on all 4 of these pieces. So on the smaller flaps, I'm going to use them on the straight edge, so lining up the top and bottom, and then the edge of the scallop with the edge of the page. I'm going to do this and then run that through my die cutting machine. I'm going to come back and I'm going to add it to the straight edge on both of these flaps to cut those. Once I have all these pieces cut, I'll come back and we will start adding them to the page. I'm going to start with the smaller of my 2 flaps, and I'll be placing these here and here, but I'm going to show you what this is going to look like first, because if you don't like the look of this, you're going to want to recut your smaller flaps and make them larger. These flaps on the side are going to be in the center here and here, so you will actually see a little bit of this decorative edge peeking out of the top and the bottom. So if you don't like that, if you want to extend this a 1/2 inch, it will actually push that into there. I completely forgot whenever I was cutting this, and I should have done it that way, but I've already cut my pieces, so I'm going to leave mine as it is, and you will see those, just those little decorative edges. But if you want to hide those, you're just going to push these down a little bit more. So instead of these being 2.5, you'll just recut them to 3 inches and use your edge die on those edges. Once you have those pieces to whichever size you want, and remember, if you are changing the size of these, that when you go to do the decorative papers, it will probably not be the right size because I will be doing mine according to my pieces. So once you have your pieces done, you'll go ahead and adhere them, one to the top and one to the bottom, just lining up that score line with the edge of those top and bottom edges on the page. Once I have these on, I'm going to actually flip these up for now, and I'm going to use my centering ruler here to place my flaps. So they're going to be centered. So I'm going to use my 3 inches from center since these are 5 7/8. And I'm going to apply this one here to that right edge and burnish it down. Then I'll move my ruler over here to the opposite side of the page, and I'm going to apply this flap same way, except for once I get this where it needs to go, I'm going to close both of these flaps just to make sure that they are straight across the tops and the bottoms, and then I'll adhere this down. So now I'm going to fold these in and fold this. And we want to make sure that everything closes okay, nice and flat. So my pieces are all in here. Now, if any of your pieces don't close completely flat, if they start to bow at all, like this one just kind of caught a little bit, I am going to take my scissors and just trim this slightly, just a little tiny bit. So that it's not in that fold. And I think this one, I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. I think I'm just gonna do it to all of them to be safe because I don't want these edges to catch. So I'm just slightly trimming. That one's good. And then I think this one needs to be done, and then we'll have all of them trimmed. And this is just removing a little teeny tiny bit of paper so nothing ends up puckering at all when we go to close these. Perfect. And this is for there. All right, so here I'm going to put an M and an M for my magnets. And that is all for page 4, and this tutorial is finished. We have completed all of the build videos for the tutorial. So starting with the next set of videos, we're going to begin decorating our cover and our pages using the Vagabond papers. So if you have not purchased those supplies yet, don't forget to click on the links in the description box below. They will take you to the Scrap and Create website where you can purchase all the products that you will need to follow along. I'll see you in the next tutorial.